What's up, everybody? Flatlanders, anybody else out there? I'm here today, and it's a crappy day. We didn't work today, so I'm in the shed and I'm organizing a bunch of my hunting stuff and camping stuff, trying to stay warm. It's like 33 degrees outside here in Texas, and it's kind of drizzling and raining. Unfortunately, we don't get any snow, so we just have to deal with the wind and the cold. And I am stopped up, if you can hear me. Anyways, I was listening to a podcast, and these guys were kind of poking fun at, like, why would you sleep in a hammock when you're in the backcountry? Or, that it was just kind of, I thought it was kind of funny because obviously these guys haven't tried it, and they don't know what they're missing. I'm a little aggravated, sorry. Here's the deal, is I spent 21 days this past season in the backcountry sleeping in a hammock, and I spent 28 days the season before that in the backcountry, and 3/4 of that I spent sleeping in a hammock. The other part of it, I slept on the ground where I had a good level spot. But guys, if you're in the mountains, you don't always have a good flat spot or a deer bed or an elk bed to go make camp in. A lot of times I was camping in some nasty, steep country, and I couldn't hardly find a flat area to save my life. So that's one reason why you should use a hammock. The other one is because, have you ever set up a tent and all that in the rain, like in a downpour rain? Like, I wish it was raining right now so that I could go take my pack and all that and go out and set my stuff up in the middle of a downpour, so that I could show you, you hang your backpack underneath that tree, and you're right, that you don't always have to or there's not always a tree that's the perfect distance. But if you buy the right hammock, then you don't have to worry about that because your straps are flexible. Same thing with your tarp. It's all flexible. You're up off of the ground. You don't have the cold ground sucking all the heat off of you. I'm sure everybody uses a sleeping pad. So I don't know what my sleeping system weighs, but it can't be much. I use a tarp. I use a hammock, I use my sleeping pad, and then my sleeping bag. Granted, my sleeping bag is not the most expensive version, so it is heavier. And probably same goes for like my hammock. But I don't know why you wouldn't use a hammock versus sleeping in a tent or some other tarp shelter on the ground. Potential to get wet, bugs, all that stuff. And you just need to learn how to lay in your hammock. I sleep on my side. I can roll over and go pee out of it. There's so many good things. You can keep all your stuff underneath you while you're sleeping. So, like your boots and all that will be up off the ground. And because I'll usually stack them all in my backpack while it's on the ground. I don't see the reason why you would want to stuff all your crap and be cramped up in a little tent whenever, if it's not raining, you can sit down in your hammock and have something to sit on without having to sit on the ground or have some dumb little chair. Anyways, I think I'm fixing to go put my backpack on and go set my hammock and my tarp up and let you guys see that this setup you can't beat this in the backcountry, guys. It's lightweight. You can pretty much set it up anywhere. I mean, you're going to be in the mountains, so there's going to be trees everywhere. And unless you're above tree line, which I don't necessarily recommend camping above tree line. And I've also set my hammock and my tarp set up with my wife at like 11,600 feet at a high alpine lake, and outrode the nastiest storm that night. 60-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, it was just brutal. Guess what? My tarp did great. We stayed dry. We stayed out of the wind. We weren't necessarily in a hammock, because there were only small bushes around. But check this out, okay? I'm going to set my tarp and set up my hammock, and I'm going to get in it. It's going to be just like I am whenever I'm in the mountains. Unfortunately, I don't have any hills around me. It is flat land here. So let's see how this works out. And then go set up your tent in the rain and deal with all that. No, thank you. I'm going out here onto my property, and I'm going to set up my hammock and stuff just like I was to camp. So this is my pretend elk hunting habitat here. I'm going to use this little spot right here. This is actually a crappy looking spot. Let me turn the camera around. So I'm going to try to set up this little cedar tree here, and then this cedar tree right here. I want to simulate that this is a situation where I've got to get into my setup as fast as possible. Let's say there's a thunderstorm coming. Get into my bottom pocket here, and immediately go for my tarp. Bunch of sap on it from hunting this year. Anyways, I take and unzip my tarp. Now I'll go ahead and put it over me and all of my stuff while I'm trying to set this up. That way, everything pretty much stays dry. Oh shit. Probably would have helped if I would have had all this tied up beforehand. So I definitely could have been probably better prepared, but this is a good lesson learned, you know. At this point, guys, I would have my rain gear on, and of course, if a rainstorm would be coming, that's the first thing that I would do is put my rain gear on. Other than that, I've got my tarp semi hung up. That way, I can just stand underneath here and it gets completely dry with all of my stuff also. Everything's under my tarp. Now I can take my time and get everything set up pretty much the way that I want it. Tie this off to a few trees that's around.
I do carry some stakes with me for some of the corners. I don't usually use the stakes very often, but they are there if I want them.
Okay, so come check this out. Once you got your tarp thrown up real quick, you want to just anchor it off. And now you have a spot to sit here and work your bag and everything and all your stuff underneath a dry area. I'm not super high off the ground. And if I need to, I can adjust my tarp to where it's a little bit steeper of a pitch. That way it sheds more rain. And I've been in some pretty hairy storms underneath this thing. So also I keep my hammock right in that same pocket. My hammock is set up to where the first thing out of the bag is the ropes, and I can keep the whole hammock in the bag, okay? This keeps everything up off the ground and dry while you attach it to this tree over here, okay? Mine's pretty simple. Just wrap it around the tree a couple of times and then buckle it right back to the hammock. And then I can come back and adjust it once I figure out my distance. Hammock pulls right out. Okay, then I attach my other side. Okay. It's actually pretty close. I'll tighten this up maybe just a hair more. Now I just twist my ropes a little bit and get it to tighten up to the exact length that I want. Sweet. Now I can take my pad, lay my pad out. I'm not gonna lay my pad out just because I don't wanna have to put it back up. And my sleeping bag, I don't wanna have to put it up as well. But you guys get the point. I've got a perfectly good setup right here with the hammock. I got a place to sit. You know, another thing is, whenever you're out there, you can't always find a perfect flat spot like this, guys. Especially for somebody that's going out into the mountains brand new and you guys have never been to your location, you have no idea what it looks like. Guys, I can almost promise you if there's gonna be elk there, there's probably gonna be trees for you to set this stuff up. This is the most simple way. It keeps you up off of the ground. Make sure you have a good sleeping pad to put down in your hammock. And if you learn to lay in your hammock correctly, if you lay it kind of a diagonal, you'll actually lay pretty flat. I'm 6'4", 250 pounds roughly. And this is definitely the way that I like to hike. Because tomorrow I'm moving on to a new camp. And all I have to do is wad this thing up and stuff it right back into its own little pouch and grab my tarp, and I'm pretty much ready to go. I mean, there's not a whole lot to set up camp right here. Tear down super quick and easy. Even whenever it's wet, this tarp goes in its own little bag and doesn't get the whole rest of your bag wet. And during the night, my bag's hanging over here underneath the tarp right here up against this tree. So everything's gonna be perfect. Same thing in the morning. Oh, I wake up, instead of having to roll over and put your shoes on all bent over and everything, I can grab my shoes and put them on right here, your boots that's sitting underneath you, knowing that they're gonna be 100% dry. And I've got a 10 by 12 area underneath this tarp that it's all mine. So this is definitely the way that I like to sleep in camp. I did it for many, many nights out in the backcountry. Good luck, guys.